Okay, this is the follow-up video to the live demo from class today. We're going to work on flats and platforms. This is going to be in the Google assignment in Google Classroom. This is a flat and platform list so that you make sure that you get everything you need. So you'll go onto your ground plan, and remember, when we look at the ground plan, we're measuring in real feet and real inches. It just happens that on your paper, a real foot is only 1/4 of an inch long. So you'll list the actual measurement that it'll be built, and then it's going to be to your advantage if you list the scale measurement for what you're going to cut out. Now platforms, we're going to use all three measurements because remember, it has to be up or down below the stage floor. So you'll use height, width, and length on a platform. So let's get started. I've got my ruler. I just changed my blade on my box cutter. I've got some foam core scraps, and all the scraps that you had from making your box, this is the time to use them up. And I sharpened yellow pencil so that I can see the little marks. So I'm going to start with Tom's. All the flats on this set are 12 feet tall. So the first thing we want to mark out is the height. Now, this piece of foam core is too little. So grab one of the other ones. This will be fine. Okay. Now I'm not using the T-square tonight. So I've got to mark it in two places. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 feet scaled is 3 inches. So down here, line up the 0 mark on my ruler with the edge of my foam core, and just a little dot. Okay. Got my cutting board down. You can actually see it tonight because the pieces are so much smaller. Yeah. Okay, so now this is the right height. Now, Tom has two walls. We have the wall that goes down towards the audience. That's wall 1, because that's the wall that's furthest stage right. And then we have the wall that's parallel to the proscenium. That's wall 2. So wall 1 is 12 feet wide, and wall 2 is 8 feet wide. Since we're working in 1/4 inch scale, I'm going to cut this as one piece. And I'll show you how we're going to deal with the fact that it needs to bend in a moment. So, again, 2 dots. Line up your 0 with the edge of the foam core. Now my 2 dots on this one are going to be really close together because my piece of foam is just not that big. Okay, so here is Tom's. It is an excellent idea to label this stuff. You're gonna have lots of pieces, and if they're not labeled, it's really easy to go, oh, I can cut this smaller because it's just big enough. Okay. Now my first wall for Tom is 12 feet, so I've marked 3 inches because that's what it is in scale. Now, that flat, this will be better because it'll certainly show up. Tom's flat, sits like this. There is a bend in it. I'm going to get a better finished look if I keep the front of this as a single piece. So the way I do that is I turn it over. I remeasure my 3 inches again. And I call this back cutting. I don't know if there's actually a term for it. But I'm not going to cut all the way through. I'm just going to cut this top layer of paper. This is a lot like snap-in drywall. Okay, so that's cut through. Now, this will bend. When I have my finish, whatever Tom's is going to look like, I won't have a really big seam here. So that will make my model look better. Okay, now Judy's is the opposite of Tom's. And that's not going to be large enough to do Judy's. So, this is a great opportunity to reuse pieces that got cut and didn't get cut right because you drifted. So, 3 feet. I'm sorry, 3 inches, 12 feet. Okay. Now, as I said, Judy's is the mirror image of Tom's. So we know it's still going to be 5 inches long overall, because 5 inches long is 20 feet. Cut all the way through. So, cut twice. There we go. Okay. Now, this part over here is my 12-foot side. So when I turn it over, 12 foot in 1/4 inch scale is 3 inches. Oops, it's a little off. And I want to remember that they're not identical. They're mirror images of each other. And that should help me get this right. Okay, and I back cut that and see it'll snap. So, there are my 2 stage right wall set and my stage left wall set. So, those are all set. No pun intended. Now, on my set, Mama's house is on a platform. Before I cut out Mama's walls, I want to cut out her platform. So, on the bottom are my platforms. Her platform is 3 feet tall. It's 12 feet wide and it's 12 feet in length. So, that's going to be 3/4 that we'll deal with in a little bit. But right now I need a 3x3 square. Oops. And I really need to be extra careful with platforms to make sure that you get them marked correctly and cut correctly. Now, if the platform is not square and is out of sync, when you start putting scenery on top of it, it's not going to get better. Check my measurements, make sure that this is good. Because if it's not, hey, I've got more foam core. I can redo it. I know y'all think it's funny every time I say it, but it's not a mistake till you won't fix it. Okay, so here is Mama's platform. Remember, I'll use this. Here's my theater measurement sheet from when we were doing the original theater box. So, Mama's set is really a box set. It's got a back wall and it's got two walls that come down the front. And they're going to match and fit exactly on this. Now remember, I'm not going to take it all the way to the back. I want a place for Judy and Tom to be able to stand while the door's closed, so it's easier for them to get in and out. So, that's going to be important. Now, let's look at Mom's walls. Her wall... One's 8 foot wide, the back wall's 12 foot wide, and then the other wall is 8 foot wide. So, that's got a boo-boo in my math. I have to fix my example. That, and I know there's a spelling error in here. Okay, so 8 feet would be 2 inches wide. So I need a piece of foam 7 inches long by 3 inches tall. And yeah, that's plenty long enough. Again, the longer cuts, that's that opportunity for your ruler to move on you. So don't worry so much about pressing down on the box cutter. It's about pressing down and holding your ruler in the same place. And I need to go to about there. That gives me some boo-boo room. So we're going to slide this to the edge so I can hook my thumb underneath my tabletop. Act like a clamp. If you're worried about your ruler moving, cut slower. Okay. It would have been really smart when my ruler was there to have made my mark. Okay. Now, this is my stage right side, and this is my stage left side. So, I know that my stage right side, that flat is 8 feet. So, in scale, that would be 2 inches. So I'm going to make my cut so that this will fold. And then I'm going to have to show you when 12 feet isn't really 12 feet. Okay, so there's my 8-foot platform, my 8-foot flat. Now, black foam core, black cutting board, hard for you guys to see, not a lot of contrast. My foam core takes up space. So if I measure this next piece at 12 feet in scale, when I make that cut, it's going to be out here over nothing. So we're going to, have to take that into account. It'll look like 12 feet to the audience, but on our model, it's going to be a little bit under. So the question is, how thick is this? And this is just a little bit under a quarter. So, a quarter plus a quarter is a half. So 3 inches minus a half would be 2.5. But I said it was a little bit under, so I'm just going to slide my ruler just a little bit this way. Now, this does mean that this piece is too long, but we'll cut that in a moment once we make sure that this fits. Again, press down, hold that ruler in place. Not cutting all the way through. The strength is not in the cutting hand. Okay, so turn that right side up. So here is my stage right side, stage left, and now, this is a little bit long because it should be ending right where the platform ends, and it's not. So not a big deal. We know that that is 8 feet, 2 inches in scale. Okay, so there we go. There's Mama's walls. So that fits, and I've got Judy's and I've got Tom's. Now, we've got to come back to this because we've got height. So this should be 3/4 of an inch high. Now, remember, thickness here. So, now I need to cut... Excuse me. Now, here's my ruler. So 3/4 of an inch means I'm going to cut just over a half inch. Now, is this the right size? Hey, this is large enough. This is a really thin piece. It is not in my best interest to try to cut this. It'll move on me. This, let's see. Yeah, this is plenty long. I'm going to need 2 pieces. And that's just over a ½ inch. When you're cutting pieces that are on the small side like this, make sure that your ruler is fully supported. If I had to have cut it out of here, I would have taken another piece of foam core and use this as a shelf so that my ruler is flush and flat. Okay. Also, with the cutting board, I've got lines printed on it. And if I line my foam core up, it helps me get those straight lines. That's not good. Okay, let me show you something. Okay, this is sitting really nicely on that white line and this white line here. Can you bring the camera over? Look at what's going on here. This is not square. So that cut, not good. That would be a bad cut to make. So, yeah, slow down. Look at what you're doing. This is why we have, slowed this project down so that you have time that if you're doing a little bit at a time, it gets easier. Okay. Oops. Since I'm right-handed, I want my left hand to hold that ruler. Okay, there's one. We're gonna, and see, that's cut much better. So mark out my other piece. Just a little over a half. Up my ruler on my 2 dots. Get rid of my colored pencil. There we go. Okay. Lots of scrap. Now, there's one piece. And here's the other piece. Now we're gonna kind of jump back like we were building the set model, the theater box, and we've got some glue to do. A couple of T-pins because that's what's in my office. Remember, it doesn't have to be T-pins. As Bryson found out today, T-pins are actually a little bit better. He went to pull the regular pins out of his that have that big plastic ball on the end, and 2 of the balls came off. So, looking at my quality control, one of my pieces is just slightly larger than the other one. So, I'm getting to show you how to use your rule, how to use another piece of foam core as a support. Okay. Yep. That should be okay. Now, a little bit of glue. Now, foam core is foam core. It's not real heavy. So we're not going to worry about all of the structural support that the real platform would need. We can put a piece of foam core at the front and a piece of foam core at the back, and that's going to be fine for our set model. If it turns out that the audience in the model is going to see underneath, I can come back and cut a piece to go there. Not a big deal. There's the other piece. The platform is probably going to be the piece that, in building the model, gets moved and handled the most. So, You know, when I have to put all of Mom's flats on it. So I want it glued together well. Remember, these are much smaller pieces than your theater box. So don't stick the pin all the way through into you. Okay, so there are my pieces. Tom's, Judy's. You know, the angles on these are not right, but I can use my platform, my grid, and then this would sit here. It won't quite fit in the right place because of the T-pins, but you get the idea. That's where my set's going. Okay, so we demoed this today in class. You now have a video that you can use to walk through this over the weekend. So Monday, you should come to class with all your pieces cut out. Now, we changed cohorts on Monday. So if you're in the cohort that's coming to class, bring your theater box, bring your extra foam core. Make sure you bring your ground plan so that we can do all that. Next week, we will start to talk about how we get finish color on here, because this is not a show that's going to have all black walls. We need color and we need furniture. And there's a trick for doing furniture that I'll show you later in the week. Okay, bye.